This is more Doug DeMuro, and today's a special one. Today I'm going to look back at my first YouTube video ever. It has been almost exactly 7 years since I filmed this video. Went up a little after that, but I filmed it 7 years ago. Since then, I have racked up 1.2 billion views on my main channel, another 60 million views here on More Doug DeMuro, and I figured it would be nice to go back after 1 billion views and 7 years and 500 videos and millions of subscribers and watch that video and just see. I haven't watched it in like 5 years, and I just want to watch it and see what was I thinking, and I'm going to watch it with you for the first time. I have not watched it to prepare for this. It's been years. Let's go. Okay, now before I get started, I'm going to show you clips of the video, and then I'm going to kind of react to them and tell you what I remember and my thoughts. And so before I get started, let me go over some of my thoughts about this video. At the time, this was mid-2013. And I was writing car, like humor columns for Jalopnik, which was at the time the biggest car blog. And I was getting pretty successful doing this, and I was building kind of a following of people who liked my writing. And one of them reached out to me and he said, you know, hey, have you considered making videos? You're a very funny writer, that maybe it would translate to video. And I thought, videos. Like it truly had not crossed my mind to do videos until I got this email. Now, I'm not really a video guy, as you could probably tell with some of these early videos if you've seen them. And I had no clue what I was doing. But I knew I'd be posting this video on Jalopnik, and it was going to be accompanying a column where I was saying goodbye to my Cadillac CTS-V Wagon, which is a car I owned at the time. So unlike a lot of YouTubers where they their early stuff, they didn't get that many views and they kind of learn and refine and improve, my first video, I knew a lot of people would see it from Jalopnik. So it had to be like good coming out of the gate. But I had no clue how to make a good video. So 7 years ago, I started experimenting with iMovie, and it's the very basic movie editing software that you can have on an Apple computer. And I bought some equipment to film with, and that was okay. And I truly had no idea what I was doing. But I was certain at the time that I couldn't do it myself, no matter what. Couldn't happen myself. So I flew out my best friend Joe from Denver to Atlanta, where I was living at the time, to help me film this video. He didn't know anything, by the way, about video production either. Neither of us had any idea what we were doing, but I knew you can't film a YouTube video by yourself. I needed someone else. And so he comes out, I have my second person to help. I thought, all right, let's give this a try. I have no idea what I'm gonna do, especially next. Like once we finish this, he's gonna have to fly home to Denver. Then what? I didn't know. I had no idea, but I figured let's just give it a shot and see how it goes. So anyway, here is the video that we made. I'm not going to show the whole video. I'm going to show a few clips here and there, and I'm just going to give some of my memories and thoughts looking back on this first video years later. Here goes.
I'm Doug DeMuro, and the time has come for me to sell my CTS-V Wagon. But before I do, I've decided to make a little farewell video, showing you what it was like to own a 550 horsepower station wagon with an automatic transmission.
Okay, so these first shots. First off, it's interesting that I start this video by saying I'm Doug DeMuro, because now I so much try to avoid any of that like introductions. Let's just get to it. These shots were filmed on Emory University's campus where I went to college. They have kind of like an auxiliary campus called the Briarcliff campus, which is pretty much in disuse. There's like a few offices on it. And there was some creepy stuff there. It was always a great setting for filming. I mentioned the automatic transmission thing because I got a lot of flack for that I didn't buy a manual CTS-V wagon, but I just couldn't find any at the time, and I really wanted to write about this car, so I bought what was available. And by the way, you see the shots, you can see them kind of going down, like panning in a weird way. That's because it was on a tripod. This was before you could easily get a stabilized camera like you can now. So the only way to get a shot that didn't have like the shaking of your hands was on a tripod. So it looks very amateur. So how fast is the Cadillac? To find out, I've decided to drag race it against my other car. Yeah, okay, maybe that was a little unfair. So we're gonna try it a different way.
that was a lot closer.
I can't believe I started with that. What a ridiculously stupid premise. If we do this drag race, the shots were designed to make the drag race actually seem a lot longer than it is. It was actually just a parking lot. It was nowhere near a quarter mile or an eighth mile or probably even a tenth of a mile, but it was there, and we could, with some camera trickery, we could sort of make it look longer. The drag race in reverse I thought was an interesting idea. I thought people would find it to be kind of funny, like Top Gear does or something like that. You'll notice I'm wearing a helmet in that clip. I was acutely aware from Jalopnik that people get very upset if you do stuff and you're not safe about it. And I thought I would get a lot of mean comments from people if I didn't have a helmet on when I was drag racing. So that's why I did that.
To find out, I've decided to set up a slalom. But unfortunately, I don't have any cones to mark the course. So instead, I'm going to use these 4 American car models.
Forget the pain, you might not even be the same. Make the trail herpes, forget the blame. Who cares what's over, it's over, forget the lie, the usual in the psychic places, the compromise. 50-50 in your dreams, try to let go. You're beaten perfect, now you're better by a shotgun, go in style, relax and smile.
That was fun. Too bad I'm going to get an angry email from every Impala owner who sees this.
That also is so stupid. But a couple interesting things about that. For one thing, you can see the light change in that video. One crazy thing about this video is it took me days to film it because I was so nervous about criticism that I would get. I wasn't sure how it would be received. So anything that wasn't right, I would go and reshoot it. And that just took an enormous amount of time. Be editing and say, well, that didn't turn out right. To get in the car, drive back to the spot, film it again. And so you can see the lighting change from like night to day, back to night in that one slalom. 2 other things I noticed there. Number one, my delivery is just so bad. At the time, you know, when you're in front of the camera for the first time, you just kind of freeze up. You don't really know what to say. Over time, I've learned just be yourself. Just talk like it's your buddy. Hi, camera. Okay, that was stupid. But you get the point. But when you're doing it for the first time, you're like, there's a camera on me. People are going to see this. Hello. I don't have cones, so I'm using cars. It's just absurd to look back and think I was ever that unnatural, but for a long time I was. Another interesting thing you can see in these clips is music. I got royalty-free music. I really felt like videos had to have music, which is so funny because now I feel very much the opposite. But at the time, that was much more common on YouTube. Videos would pretty much always have music in the background. The other thing that was interesting here, of course, is the car models. I ran over this Chevy Impala model. I had bought that. It was a police car, but I like my car models to be like normal cars, like Hondas and Fords and Toyotas. And so I bought that and I didn't put the police stuff on it. I just wanted a Chevy Impala. And so I crushed that one. The other ones I get asked about often. People say, how do you have an Oldsmobile Aurora car model or a Dodge Stratus? I do have them. I bought them in a car model fair in Atlanta in like 2011. They are still sitting in my garage right behind the camera right now. I've moved them 3 times across the country. And I don't know, I think they were originally given to journalists when those cars were first launched back in the 80s and 90s. And I'm thrilled that I have those are really weird car models.
Of course, you already know the CTS-V Wagon is fast and that it handles well. So let's answer a more important question. Can it jump a Range Rover? Yes. Yes, it can.
Why not? That was so stupid. I remember that required an enormous amount of work because we had to buy all this supplies, like these boards and whatever we put the boards on to have the car look like it was jumping. And then of course, obviously it wasn't gonna be jumping the Range Rover. So I came with this idea. I had a matchbox of the car and I came with this idea that I would have it jump over it and I would call back the helmet from the prior thing and people would think that was funny. And I assume no one actually thought it was funny, but I was hopeful that people might think that when they were watching. One other thing, you can see on the car, the license plate says PWC. At the time, I was trying to launch a website called Plays with Cars. That was gonna be my website. So even though I was writing for Jalopnik, I knew I wanted my own thing. And so Plays with Cars was that. And so I got all these license plates printed that said PWC, and I was gonna put them on all the cars in my videos. So that's the reason for that.
I love how the V-Wagon looks, and so do most automotive journalists. But what about regular people? Are they as excited as I am about a Cadillac station wagon? To find out, I took to the streets. All right, there's a woman waiting at this stoplight. I'm gonna put it in neutral. That had no effect. You see this? Cadillac! He doesn't see this. Here we go, GTR. GTR, you gonna notice? No, he doesn't care. No. No, nobody notices. Apparently not. Maybe if it had a manual.
See, this is also so stupid. I can't believe how old school and stupid this looks. I had it in my head that I created like a good video as my first video, and that is clearly not the case. That scene, I had to talk about styling somehow, and I wasn't really sure how I would do that unless I interviewed people, but I wanted to also make it clear that nobody actually pays attention to other people's cars on the street. Of course, when I'm looking around for people, oh, he doesn't notice. There weren't actually people there. I just had to kind of make it look like there were. No one ever really did notice the CTS-V Wagon.
There are a lot of things that I like about the V-Wagon's interior. For example, when you turn on the car, this screen pops up and it shows a movie that features the Cadillac logo. And there are all these great buttons on the steering wheel, and those are useful. And let's not forget these little dots that light up whenever you accelerate for, I don't really know why actually. And unlike any German car I've ever been in, there are no blank switches anywhere on the center stack. And this screen goes up and down and up and down, and people seem to really like that. But the best part is that the steering wheel is so fuzzy. So fuzzy. But there are a few problems inside, the biggest of which is visibility. For instance, you may think there's nothing back there, but there's actually an 8-foot tall Leaning Tower of Pisa. And while it seems like there's nothing on the side of the car, there's actually 2 giant rolls of lifesavers. And sometimes when you're trying to make a turn, the A-pillar is hiding an Easter Island head.
What the hell? Why is there an Easter Island? So, you know, the interior is a few things. So fuzzy kind of became a thing for a while. People thought that was really funny. But those props, I had my best friend at the time, she worked at like a company that also had attached to it like a prop company. And so for a few $100, I borrowed those props for the day. And so a giant roll of lifesavers. Why does that even exist as a prop? But looking back on that, that is kind of funny. A giant Leaning Tower of Pisa, what is that doing there? This is the stupidest video I've ever seen.
The best thing about the V-Wagon is that it is, in fact, a wagon. And that means it can hold just about anything. This motorcycle helmet, this stepladder, and this enormous bag of packing peanuts. I think we're done here.
Now, the packing peanuts became kind of a thing because people did get mad about that, something I hadn't considered. They were upset because obviously they flew out of the car there at the end, it was windy. And the truth about those packing peanuts is kind of interesting. They're biodegradable. And we picked up every single one of those peanuts. We were filming that at a parking garage at Emory in Atlanta. And we walked around and picked up, me and 2 of my friends who were there, 3 of my friends. And every one of those things we picked up. But what would happen is they would go into a puddle and instantly just collapse. And the truth is, if we had just left them there, it would have rained and they all would have just disintegrated. That's what they were designed to do. But just to be good citizens, we did pick them all up. Now, we didn't show that, of course, which probably would have been better, but nonetheless, people were a little angry that the packing peanuts getting out.
Goodbye, V-Wagon. It's been fun.
Now these scenes with the packing peanuts, it's worth noting even there, you can see there's a zillion of them on the ground. They could only be shot once for obvious reasons. So you saw a minute ago when I dumped it into the back of the wagon, they didn't start coming out at first. Well, I probably should have just stopped and said, all right, let's try this again. But I kept going and it was fine. But you had, you know, if you messed up, you'd have to pick them all up again and then put them back in the bag and go again. Fortunately, we didn't have to do that, and these scenes actually ended up working out okay. And, you know, the car drives off, the peanuts go everywhere. It's kind of a funny ending. And that is, in fact, the ending. This video had very little substance. It's it's just not, it's better than a lot of first efforts at video, because this is hard to do, but it wasn't good. Definitely there are people who do this better. Definitely I do it much better now. And even in just a couple of videos, I quickly figured out how to do better. But it is interesting 7 years later to go back and watch. This was my first effort. And at the time, I truly can't express how much I really didn't know what I was doing. I really had no clue. Even if I did it, like I said, what would come next? What would I do next? I really didn't know. But of course, what ended up happening was the video was relatively popular. People thought it was funny, and I decided to take it to the next level, and I bought a Ferrari 360, which I made many videos on, and that kind of began the climbing of the mountain. But it's amazing to me that this video exists, that I did it, that it happened, and that this is how I used to make videos. 7 years is a long time. I still remember picking up those packing peanuts in the cold. And I'm sure my friends do too. And it's hard to believe that was 7 years ago. I didn't know at the time it would be like a seminal moment in my life, the beginning of this crazy career. But it was, and it's amazing to look back now and see it. And thank you for taking this journey with me and watching this video again. I'm sorry to subject you to such a ridiculous video, but it's always interesting to see where you got started.